أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابدون ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك الحق مالك الموت مالك اليوم الدين. الصلاة والسلام أكملان على خاتم الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين وإمام المجاهدين وإمام النبيين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وأنصاره وتابعين وتابع تابعين على أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى والدين الحق ليظهره على دين كله لو كره المشركين. In the name of Allah Rahman Rahim, I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I bear witness that the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the last and final messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal. And I bear witness that there is no truth other than the truth of the Quran. There is no way of life other than the way of life of the Sunnah. And I bear witness that the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not sent so that it would be dominated over, but rather it was sent so that it would dominate over every other way and system of life. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send and shower His blessings upon the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala al-ajma'in, and his family. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our gathering, protect us inshaAllah from the waswas of the shaitan and the shayateen, and to protect us from the nazar of the munafiqeen, from the watchful eye of the hypocrites and the kuffar. Now subhanallah, I thank the brothers and the sisters who organized the event to give me the opportunity to come and speak on a topic, subhanallah, that is vital for the Muslims and just as much weight is vital for the non-Muslims. It is vital for both, especially in a day and age where, subhanallah, Islam or the Sharia has been given so many titles. The evil ideology, the ideology, the ideology of oppression, and so on and so forth. And also in relation to certain comments that have been made by Mr. Williams in relation to integrating certain aspects of the Sharia into Western life, and then in the great, subhanallah, in the great history of Western politicians, he made his U-turn and denied that he ever said it. So subhanallah, in a time where Muslims are being oppressed, where the Sharia is, subhanallah, given such an evil face in the media, in a time where, subhanallah, Muslims are being arrested and imprisoned, and subhanallah, in a time when Muslims themselves are calling for the Sharia. This is a vital topic. Now, everything that we see that goes on around us, there's nothing new about this. About the onslaught of attack on the Sharia, there's nothing new about this. The Western world, many years ago, they did this, but the name was just different. At that time, it was communism. And anybody who spoke out against the capitalist way, they would say that he is a communist. And subhanAllah, they would arrest people under the guise that he or she or they are communists. And they would arrest them and put them in jail. And nothing much has changed. Anytime the Western government, they see something as a threat, they push in the media that this is bad for you or this is bad for the masses. And then subhanAllah, they start a physical and ideological attack on an ideological physical attack on that system or that way of life. And nothing much has changed apart from then it was communism and now it is the sharia or now it is Islam. Then it was subhanAllah, then it was people without beards, now it is people with beards and sisters of hijab and jilbab. Nothing much has changed. This is a very old tactic of the Western world. Now subhanAllah, coming back to the topic in hand, in relation to the Sharia, the first and foremost thing that we should understand is that after the advent of the last messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after the last revelation, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ, that no other deen, no other way of life will be acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except illa al-Islam, except for the way of life of Islam. So after the advent of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and after the revelation of the Quran, there can be no other way of life that will be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala other than the Sharia. Now the reason why I mention this is because even as Muslims, sometimes we are somewhat deluded and we think that maybe capitalism or socialism or democracy can solve the problems of the Muslims. But the fact of the matter is that we only have this opinion because of our lack of knowledge of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in the past, the Sharia in definition was split into two. The ulama of the past, they made it very simple. The scholars of the past, they made it very simple. They said, Sharia is al-mu'amalat wa ibadat. Al-mu'amalat is day-to-day transactions. And ibadat is worship. They said that this is Sharia by definition. Now, subhanAllah, I will not disagree with this definition because they are our scholars and I am not a scholar to disagree with them. But to make it more comprehensive, it is better for us to understand what the word Sharia means. Or to understand the purpose of the Sharia is to understand linguistically and from Sharia what it means. Linguistically, the word Sharia in Arabic just means law. You can have the Sharia of ins, the Sharia of mankind, the law of mankind, or we can have the Sharia of Islam, the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, to understand what the Sharia is, when we look at, subhanAllah, where the word Sharia is derived from, the word Sharia is derived from the word Shara. Shara means to walk along a path that leads to a fountain. This is what the word means. Shara. To walk along a path that leads to a fountain. Now the ulama, they have said about the word Shara that the path that you walk on as Muslims, the path that we walk on as Muslims is the sunnah of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the fountain at the end of the path is a representation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Sharia for Muslims is the path that leads to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I.e. the only law that is acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal. And this is the Sharia. But to understand where the Sharia has come from and where it is derived from as law and legislation, I'll ask you to use your imagination because we don't have a whiteboard. Usually I draw it on a whiteboard. If you imagine a tree, a tree has roots, a body, or the trunk of a tree, and then we have branches. The sharia is very similar to this. The foundations of the sharia are the Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran and the Sunnah. The body of the tree, the trunk of the tree is the Aqidah, and what manifests from this is the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the laws and regulations. This doesn't mean that you have to become a Muslim to accept the sharia. No. This is where it manifests from. This is where it's derived from. This is where the laws, regulations, restrictions are derived from. The Quran and the Sunnah, and then we have the Aqidah, and then we have the branches which are the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, I don't want to talk about the roots, and neither do I want to talk about the body of the tree. My topic today is only the branches. Now, amongst the Mufassirin, amongst the scholars, they have divided the branches of Sharia into 6. Some say 7, some say 6. We'll go through 6, inshallah. They are the ritual system, and nizam al-ibadah, the personal system, the social system, nizam al-ijtima', the economic system, nizam al-iqtisad, the judicial system, nizam al-hadud, and the foreign policy. Now the foreign policy has 2 names. I'll give you both of them. One of them, nizam al-jihad. The other one is as-sayar. As-sayar means international law. More contemporary scholars, they use ahkam al-jihad. I have no problem with both of them. And inshallah, we'll come to each and every single one individually, and we'll go through each one individually. Now, the ulama, they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent the Sharia to protect 5 things. That the law of Islam was sent to protect 5 things. And these are the 5 that the ulama, they say. They say the first one is al-hayy, is life. That the Sharia was sent to protect life. The second one is lineage. That the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was sent to protect the lineage of an individual. Lineage. The third one is a dam, blood. The fourth is izzah, honor. And the fifth is al-mal, wealth. These are the 5 that all the scholars are in agreement about. For the primary reasons why the Sharia was revealed. For the primary reasons of Sharia are to protect these 5. And to protect these 5, we need the 6 systems, the nizamat of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the first one, the ritual system, I'm not going to go too deep into it because, not many non-Muslims actually have a problem with the ritual system of the Muslim, of Islam. They don't mind if you do sujood and ruku. They don't mind if you go to Hajj. They don't mind if you, subhanallah, when you're walking into the bathroom, you walk in right foot first, and when you come out, you walk with your left foot. They don't mind if you put your right shoe on first, and when you're taking your shoes off, take your left shoe off first. They don't mind this. They've got no problem with this. And the point is that the ritual system of the Sharia is only for Muslims anyway. The ritual system for Sharia is only for Muslims. When we come to incorporating the ritual system of non-Muslims, that comes under the social system of Islam and nizam al-ijtima'. And inshallah, we'll come to that later. So we could go into main aspects of ibadah and talk about the political, subhanallah, relevance to them. But because we don't have much time, and I want to leave as much time as I can for question and answers, I don't want to do that. So I'm sure there's no dispute in relation to the ritual system. Now, subhanAllah, the second system is the personal system. Now, the personal system in Islam, it deals mainly with cleanliness, hygiene, washing, and one's personal appearance. So personal hygiene, cleanliness. Now, we might think that, subhanAllah, this doesn't have a very big effect in day-to-day life. And I don't mean that if you're sitting next to somebody who smells, he smells, so it affects you. I mean, in general, in society, this has a massive effect in society on a societal level. And one of the examples that I've chosen for this is a big problem that we have in hospitals today. And the hygiene of hospitals. And in relation to this, what I'm actually talking about is two infections or two diseases, however you want to look at them. One is C. diff, and the other is MRSA. C. diff and MRSA. Both of these germs are harmless if they are on your external body. If they're on your external body, they're harmless. But if they are fed to you intravenously, or if they are, subhanAllah, if they infect an open wound, they are deadly. C. diff causes severe diarrhea to such an extent that it causes dehydration, you can die from it. In other words, you will diarrhea yourself to death. And MRSA, we know, is a massive killer. But C. diff is up and coming. It's very close behind. It's up and coming. We'll probably soon hear about it. Now, what relevance does general cleanliness have? And what can the sharia, subhanAllah, how can the sharia solve this problem? Now, C. diff and MRSA, both of these germs, they develop around the crotch and the groin area, the private parts of humans. And I'm sorry to be a little bit vulgar. But this is where it develops. And around the crotch and groin area, it's harmless. But what happens is that nurses, doctors, people who go to the hospital day in, day out, they don't clean themselves properly. When they go to the toilet, they don't wipe themselves properly. And then they go and they touch apparatus, or they visit the sick, or a doctor, he'll, subhanAllah, tend to a wound, or a nurse will tend to the wound. And because of MRSA and C. diff that is transferred from the crutch and the private parts onto the hand, the person who they are, subhanAllah, looking after will contract C. diff or MRSA. Now, the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders all Muslim men and Muslim women that every time they go toilet, and again, I'm sorry to be vulgar, but every time we're ordered to go toilet by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are asked to clean ourselves thoroughly first. And the Mufassirin, they say that you must use tissue first. And again, I'm sorry to be vulgar. We must use tissue first, and in the olden days it will be a stone. And then clean with water. Wash yourself with water. Is this not true, brothers? And then we're also told minimum every 40 days. Every 40 days that we must shave or pluck our unwanted hair. Is this not true, brothers and sisters? I'm sorry to be vulgar, but this is true. And this is cleanliness, a basic tenet of cleanliness from the Sharia. And this would be something that would be incorporated as hygiene within the Islamic State. This would be incorporated as hygiene within the Islamic State. And I've asked nurses and doctors, if this was implemented as personal hygiene, would it reduce the effects of MRSA and C. diff? They all unanimously said to me, yes. It will reduce it drastically. Drastically. If we washed ourselves with water every time we went to the toilet, it would drastically reduce MRSA and C. diff. This is one small example, and this is just the personal system. This is nothing major. This is not a big political event. It's just washing yourself when you go to the toilet. It's quite straightforward and simple. Clean yourself properly, subhanAllah. You know the British, they say, when they teach history, they say that we are the ones who went to Africa and introduced the Africans to soap. Wallahi, I swear to Allah, the line. I swear to Allah, the line. They never introduced the Africans to soap. Wallahi, the Africans knew about soap after them washing your soap, while the British were, subhanAllah, swimming in defecation, while they were, subhanAllah, swimming in urine, while they would defecate and fly out the window. And I'm not talking a long time ago, just about 100 years ago. Subhanallah. So just the personal system of Islam could solve many problems, and we could go into many issues in relation to the personal system. We could go into the environment, the ecosystem, how the sharia and individuals are obliged to look after the earth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Under the personal system, how it is makruh to litter. How the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said the one who picks up glass from the street, this is the lowest of iman, but he'll be rewarded for it. Subhanallah. We can go through many aspects of the personal system, but we don't have time. So I'll move on, inshallah, to Nizam al-Iqtisad. Now, Nizam al-Ijtima'. Ijtima' literally means meeting. The system of meetings between men and women in Islam. Now, this is a very big, contentious point for non-Muslims, and even for some Muslims, that we asked for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He orders the women to cover and dress in a certain way. But I swear to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He orders us to dress the men to dress in a certain way as well. But anyway, the social system of Islam generally deals with Nizam al-Ijtima'. Like I said, the main point is to do with meetings. But generally it deals with the rights and roles of men and women, marriage, the rights and roles of the husband and the wife, the rights and roles of parents and children, education system comes under Nizam al-Ijtima', and general societal interaction. So this would affect colleges, schools, and universities. Now, subhanallah, one of the main emphasis of Nizam al-Ijtima', one of the main emphasis of this pillar of the sharia is put upon the household. That the household is the first place of tarbiyah, the household is the first place of education for children. The household. And when we see that when the household is fabricated and breaks down, the whole of society will have a knock-on effect. And nobody can deny that in this society that we live in today, there is definitely a breakdown in the rights and roles of parents and children. Subhanallah, in the Sharia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that we are not allowed to say uff to our parents. But in this society, you can not only say uff, you can kick your parents out of the house and put them into a hole. And this is acceptable. The Sharia, subhanallah, puts everything in perspective and everything in its place. Now let's talk about society in general. The main problems with this society and any society in general when it adopts certain attributes are the following. In the social system, when social events or the whole social system is revolved around alcohol, sex, and drugs. And this is no more true than in universities. The whole social environment of universities is revolved around alcohol, sex, and drugs. And wallahi, this can be said true for the whole of the society that we live in. And you might disagree with me. And maybe some non-Muslims might disagree with me. But I swear it's true. And do you know how I know it's true? Not because I've carried out some big study. Not because I, subhanAllah, looked at all the statistics. When I drive down the road with my wife and my children, and I see a massive billboard, subhanAllah, the size of this wall, and sometimes bigger, of a washing machine, or a car, or a television, and next to that washing machine is a woman in her bra and knickers, I know that this society is all about sex. Because to sell this washing machine, this fridge, a cooker, subhanAllah, a car, you'll have to have a naked woman pausing behind it. Is this not true? When I drive down the road with my wife, subhanAllah, it's dangerous. Allah told me to lower my gaze. If I lower my gaze, I'm going to crash my car. If I look up, I'm going to lose my iman. What do I do? What do I do? Now, subhanAllah, this is not true for in colleges, schools, and universities. And I'll give you some, inshallah, statistics in relation to this matter. SubhanAllah, there was a survey taken out in relation to alcohol. And obviously, I don't have to point out that alcohol is haram in Islam. And looking at this survey, we can understand why it's haram. And it is one of the ma'siyat al-kaba'ir. It is one of the big sins in Islam. And all of the big sins in Islam, you know why the ulama, they say the ma'siyat al-kaba'ir? How you will know if it's a big sin? If it affects society in general. You see, if a man wants to smoke, wants to drink alcohol behind closed doors, hides in his house, the sharia will not punish him. You know that? If a man smokes drugs in his house on his own, doesn't let anyone outside know, just on his own, closes the curtain, closes the door, smokes some weed, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, he can't say anything to him. He can't say anything to him. He can't say anything to him. Because he is not affecting society. Nizam al-Ijtima' to do with societal problems. And I'll give you some, inshallah. There was a survey carried out on children, between the age of 11 and 15. And it said that 30% of children between the age of 11 and 15 drink and have been drunk at some point. Between the age of 11 and 15, drink and have been drunk. This is the fabric of our society, is it not? The children are the ones who are going to become our doctors, our teachers, our astronauts, our solicitors, our lawyers, our lecturers. They are getting drunk at the age of 11, between 11 and 15, 30% of them. SubhanAllah, almost 1/3, 30%. SubhanAllah, drug-related crime at the present moment has gone up. Since 2000, there was a survey taken out in 91, and then there was a survey taken out in 2005. In 91, reported drug-related crimes. In this is just London. Forget England, just London. Just London reported drug-related crimes in 91 was 4,144. In 2005, the same survey was carried out. Drug-related crime went up an infold of 100%. 8,758 reported drug-related crimes. This is just reported. How many drug-related crimes were unreported? Allahu Alim. Now we know, subhanAllah, that alcohol is a problem in this society. And we know this not because I'm sitting here, Abdul Jabbar, he's telling you that alcohol is a problem because alcohol is haram. No. We know this from surveys carried out by the Home Office. They said alcohol-related crime has reached a level of unacceptability. And it is for such a strain on the Metropolitan Police and other police systems around the world, around England, that something has to be done about it. So what did we do about it? Did we outlaw it? Did we restrict the selling of it? Did we increase the age before you can buy it? No. The bright idea was, let's make it available 24 hours a day. So instead of getting drunk from 11 till 11, they can get drunk 24 hours a day. What was the result of this? Brothers and sisters and non-Muslims, if there's anyone non-Muslims here today. What do you think the result? Do you think the statistics will go higher or lower? What do you think? 46% increase. 46, and this is only been a year. What's going to happen 3 years down the line? 3 years down the line, Allah Alam, what's going to happen? 46% increase in drug-related crime. 46% increase. The survey I looked at was over 8,500 in London alone. A 46% increase. Subhanallah. Whose bright idea was this? If we implement the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the principle of the sharia is to cut the problem at its root. The root of the problem is not the off license. The root of the problem is not the pub. The root of the problem is the government who allows off licenses and pubs to exist. From the sharia, we deal with the root. We remove the selling of alcohol. To get available 24 hours a day, it will not be available 24 hours a day. But if an individual wants to brew it in his own back garden, if an individual wants to brew it in his own back garden and drink it in his house, that's up to him. We have no problem with this. You want to brew it and drink it, that's up to you. But don't bring your filth out into society. Again, subhanallah, talking about sex. Subhanallah, it is said that 6 in 10 children under the age of 14 have had a sexual relationship. Now, we might think, oh, there'll be children having sex, astaghfirullah. But you know what? It's our fault. It's the society's fault we live in. I'll ask you a question. Is this not a mixed message? It is prohibited against the law for you to get married until you're 18. Okay, fair enough. You need to be responsible. Take your responsibility. But it is not prohibited for you to have sex until you're 16. What type of mixed message is this? So you can't get married, but you can have sex. You can't get married, but you can have a child. What mixed message is this that we send out to our children? And then when we have, subhanallah, a massive increase in, subhanallah, under children that are born from mothers that are under the age of 16, we'll say, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. No, it's our fault. It's the legal system's fault. We allow this to take place. The sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sharia has got no problem with having sex under 16. As long as it's your husband and your wife. As long as your husband and wife, no problem, alhamdulillah. As long as you're mature. That's why the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, when your children reach the age of maturity, marry them. Not, subhanallah, send them to sex education classes. Not, subhanallah, let them have role models who want to sing about sex, talk about sex, walk about sex, talk about rapping and about sex, rapping about women, rapping about music. No. Get married. Subhanallah, get married, have children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, your marriage and your children. Get married. What's the problem? Take the responsibility of getting married before you take the responsibility of having sex. And then you'll understand the responsibility of children. Mixed messages. The sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear. That's why, again, adultery is such a major punishment in Islam. Because it doesn't affect one person. It affects families. Families are affected by adultery. Children are affected by adultery. Children are scarred by adultery. Anyway, we continue, inshallah. Again, when we talk about children, subhanallah, 30% of all rapes that are reported are by under 16s. 30% of all rapes reported in this country are by under 16s. So either the person that was being raped was under 16, or the rapee was under 16. One of the two. Again, in such a promiscuous society where it's normal, subhanallah, for for women and men to walk around naked, what do we expect? What do we expect? What do we expect? SubhanAllah, I have more statistics, but I don't want to dwell too much on this, on the topic of social system. The fact of the matter is that the social system of Islam, Nizam al-Ijtima, the pillar of the social system is segregation between women and men. And the reason for this is because men are men and women are women. Men are naturally attracted to women, and women are naturally attracted to men. It is their fitrah. And I swear to you, I see it every day, even amongst practicing brothers. Even amongst practicing brothers. Not meaning that they're doing haram, but, you know, when they're speaking, and a sister walks in, it's like, yeah, well, like I was saying, yeah, that, you know what, we should go down and deal with this issue. It's natural. Women are attracted to men, men are attracted to women. If we put them in the mix and then give them drugs and alcohol, what do you expect is going to happen? What do you expect is going to happen? Do you know the time when rape is at its all high? Take a guess. No, time of the year. Summertime. Why summertime? Why summertime? Nakedness. Wallahi al-Azim, nakedness. Nakedness. When a woman walks around naked, or a man walks around naked, and then they're drunk, or they're high on drugs, what do you expect? Come here, darling. No, leave me alone. What do you mean leave me alone? Come over here. I'm drunk. Diminish responsibility. It's okay, I was drunk, it wasn't my fault. Or that day I was really depressed. I didn't take my depression tablets, so therefore diminish responsibility. And we'll look into that, inshallah, in the judicial system. Anyway, inshallah, rape takes place in London 17 times a day. 17 times a day, in average. In summer, it's up. In summer, it's up. So subhanallah, if there's ijtima, if there's segregation, women stay on their side, men stay on their side, alhamdulillah, no problems, no drugs, no alcohol, no diminished responsibility. There should be no problems. And if there is, the judicial system is there to deal with them. Inshallah, we come to the fourth system. The fourth system, Nizam al-Ikhtisad. Nizam al-Ikhtisad is a beautiful system from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi al-Azim, all of the systems are beautiful, but this is one of my favorites. Nizam al-Ikhtisad deals with economics, deals with trade, contracts, buying, selling, all sectors of finance. So the monetary system, what money is based on, so on and so forth. But I don't want to go into all of this. There's four principal pillars of the economic system, and this is what I'm going to go through today. I'm actually going to go through two. The first one is that all wealth belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah is the custodian of wealth. That He has bestowed wealth. It is His wealth. Doesn't belong to me, doesn't belong to you, doesn't belong to nobody. It is Allah's wealth. All wealth belongs to Allah. The second one, that mankind is the entrustee of the wealth of Allah. That we have been put here to be trustees, bankers of the wealth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To look after the wealth of Allah. The third one is that all hoarding of wealth is prohibited. To hoard wealth is prohibited. The fourth one, circulation of wealth is wajib. So for the wealth to circulate amongst the people is obligatory. These are the four basic principles of economics in the sharia. Now the first two, all wealth belongs to Allah and we are the entrustee. No one's going to dispute this. There's numerous ayats of Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about Allah giving from His bounties, Allah bestowing His wealth upon people and so on and so forth. Again, for Muslims, no one's going to argue that we are the in trustee. We are the trustees of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. What I want to look at is the second two, or the last two. One, it is prohibited to hoard wealth, and two, circulation of wealth is wajib. Now, what impact does this have? Firstly, what we see at the present moment is that over 80% of the world's wealth is in 5% of the population of the world. So 80% of all the wealth belongs to 5% of the world. Now, subhanAllah, every year we see Red Nose Day, Child Relief, help the orphans in Africa, help the orphans in Ethiopia. But there seems to be something odd about this, because Africa itself has enough resources to feed the world all over. Has enough resources. So why is it that every year we're asked to collect money to give to children in Africa? Why is it that every year we're shown pictures of, subhanAllah, children who are starving? And at their starvation, they have small pot bellies. Their small pot bellies, they're caused by starvation, malnutrition. Every year we're shown this. So then we ask ourselves, why is that? When they, subhanAllah, they are so rich, the country's so rich, the continent's so rich. And then we come to realize that the reason for this is because of the economic system that is in place at the present moment. Capitalism. Capitalism goes clearly against the last two principles of hoarding wealth and circulating wealth. Rather, what capitalism says is, don't give a damn about no one else. Let them starve as long as we have a rich bank. Let them starve and die as long as we have the most money in our bank. As long as we're eating, let them die. As long as we are rich, let the poor be poor. And as for hoarding or circulating, forget that. Hoard as much as you can. And if hoarding the wealth and the food, not only wealth, food, because under iqtisad, food also comes under this. Under economics, food also comes under this. Anything of value, they say, the ulama, they say, anything of value, the scholars say, is iqtisad, is rizq. So the ulama, they say, your wife is rizq for you. And your husband is rizq to the wife. And the children are the rizq to the parents. And the parents are rizq to the children, and so on and so forth. These are very deep about what is rizq in the sharia. But in relation to this, if we implemented just these two principles, wallahi, we would wipe out poverty. We would wipe out poverty. And how is it that I know that Africa was so rich? Again, not because of statistics. I know this from the history of Islam. When the Muslims, subhanAllah, went into Africa, and we conquered Africa, or parts of Africa, what happened is that in Hijaz, in the Arab Peninsula, there was a massive famine. Massive famine. There was no water, no food, nothing. It didn't rain for months. Do you know where the food come from to feed the people in the Arab Peninsula? From Africa. And it is said, subhanAllah, that when the last camel left Africa, the first camel was reaching Hijaz. That's how much food they sent. When the last camel was leaving Africa, the first camel was reaching Hijaz. That's how big this convoy of food was. SubhanAllah. And what we see now is that small groups of the Western world, they take up wealth and food and they burn it. And the reason for burning it is to keep the price of food stable. A'udhu billah. They burn food to keep it stable. They keep a false economy. The economy in the Sharia is based on gold and silver. How much gold and silver has Britain got? None. They got no gold and silver. And we'll go into that when we get into foreign policy. They got none. How can they base their subhanAllah money upon gold and silver when they haven't got any riches? They haven't got anything other than potatoes, carrots. You know what I mean? What's the other shagalam? Anybody know what shagalam is? Turnip. That's all they got. And wallahi, even their cattle and their chickens, they are poisoned. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal. But anyway, they burn food. They hoard with money. They have a false economy. Wallahi, as soon as the Islamic State is established, and Bismillah will be established, soon as one Muslim country, because Muslim countries are rich in gold, rich in diamonds, and rich in silver. Is it not true? SubhanAllah, Africa has got diamonds. Most of the wars in Africa are about diamonds. Saudi Arabia, oil. Do you know what they call oil? Black gold. Africa's got diamonds. Saudi Arabia, the Arab Peninsula's got. Wallahi, I got a friend who lives in UAE. Do you know what he said to me? He said, if I dig in my back garden, I'll get oil. He goes, so the government, they pay me not to dig. Allahu Akbar. They pay me not to dig. If I dig in my back garden, I'll get oil. But how come these countries ain't got anything? They're so rich. And we in the Muslim countries, they've got so much. They're so poor. Because their economy is false. It's a false economy. You know what it's based on? Confidence. You know what confidence means? Muscle. Who's scared of me? The bully tactic. I'm the bully, give me your lunch money. I'm the bully, give me your lunch. I'm the bully, give me your life. This is the tactic of the West. They have no, subhanAllah, rahmah, no mercy, no consideration. They hoard wealth, and then on top of that, they go to these countries and say, what we'll do, we'll lend you money. We'll give you some money, no problem. In the World Bank. And the World Bank is based on what? Interest. حرب بين الله وعين رجل. Any man or any woman that takes interest, he wages war against Allah and His Messenger. And in the hadith of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ala yawm al-qiyamah, rajul, that man who has taken riba, that the al-malaika, that the malaika will come to him, the angels will come to him, and they'll give him a sword in his hand. And he'll say, yeah, why are you giving me a sword? For their judgment, no fighting, man. He'll say, I'm giving you a sword. Prepare yourself for war. Prepare myself for war against who? He says, Allah, His Messenger, and His angels. For what? For taking riba, for taking interest, for participating in interest, and for giving interest. Subhanallah. Why is it such a grave sin? Wallahi, because it tears down communities. Tears them down. False economy based upon muscle, give interest. You don't pay the interest, no problem. What you need to do, we have a food program. Africa. This is England, America. I'm not talking about any other country. You know why, brothers and sisters, all year round we get pineapple? You know why all year round we get bananas? You know why all year round we get mangoes? Because of this economic system. You know, brothers, where I come from, Pakistan, massive export of mangoes. When you go there now, there's no mangoes in the market in the summer. You know why? Because they're all being exported. You know why they're being exported? Because Pakistan is in massive debt to the World Bank. And you know all these mangoes that they're selling them for like 3 pence each, 1 pence each, it's less than that. It's less than that. You know, these mangoes that they give to them, we buy in the shops all year round because of this same false economy. That is propped up by what? By cruise missiles, by B-42s, and so on and so forth. And we'll go through that, inshallah, in the last part of my talk. So, subhanallah, if the wealth, if it was prohibited to hoard wealth, so we couldn't have masses of wealth in the bank while people are starving, and that the wealth circulates, it would wipe this out. And then inshallah we could go through tax system and so on and so forth, but we definitely don't have time for that. Now let's come inshallah to the fifth of the pillars, which is the judiciary. Nizam al-Hadud. Punishment or penal code in Islam. This deals with obviously the penal code, punishment, court system. Now, first and foremost, I'd ask everybody a question. What is the point of a judicial system? What's the point of it? In the West or in any country, anywhere? Consequences to actions, alhamdulillah. Anything else? Any other? Fundamentally, the penal code is supposed to be there to discourage people from doing things. So if you commit rape, you will get this sentence. If you do this, you will get this sentence. So people won't do it. People abstain from it. This is Sharia anyway. I don't know if this is the same in Western. But in the Sharia, the purpose of the penal code is not to chop the hand of the thief. The purpose of the penal code, even though to fulfill the conditions, we chop their hand. The purpose of the penal code is not to stone the adulterer to death, but if they fulfill the conditions, we do this. The point of the penal code is to discourage people from doing things, so that they don't do it in the first place. So we don't have to chop their hand and stone them to death and so on and so forth. Now, subhanAllah, I'm not going to go through no hadith. I want to tell you a story. And this is a story about a man named Alan. Alan Little, his name was. Alan Little, he was a hard-working man. It's the truth. He was a hard-working man. He had 3 children, 3 daughters. And in Islam, daughters are blessed. I've got 3 daughters. The one who has 3 daughters, he will have 3 times more Jannah. Inshallah, that'll be me. Bismillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all Jannah and guide us all to Sirat al-Mustaqim. And if there's any non-Muslims here, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the haqq of Islam. Anyway, Alan Little. He, a hard-working man. 3 children. He goes to work, subhanAllah, 9 to 5. He's a good father, good husband. He's got a good wife, nice house. He's a upstanding pillar of the community, as they say. This man, Alan Little, and for you who aren't married, maybe you don't experience this, but this man, Alan Little, he experiences something that I experience quite regular. It's in the middle of the night, my wife nudging me, saying, "Ya Abu Abdullah, there's someone downstairs. Someone breaking in." So Alan Little, he had the same experience with his wife, saying, "There's someone downstairs. Someone trying to break in." So Alan Little, he wipes his eyes, puts his robe on, goes downstairs. And subhanAllah, lo and behold, there's someone breaking into his house. Someone trying to force their way through the door. So what he does, he looks through the window and he realizes that it's one of his neighbors. One of his neighbors who lives up the road. Now this neighbor of his was out the last 2 days getting drunk and high, smoking crack and heroin and drinking alcohol, champagne. It was his birthday. Getting high. So he thought he was going to his own house. He didn't realize he was going to Alan's house. Now Alan, he recognizes his neighbor. So what Alan does is, Alan puts the chain on the door, opens the door, says to his neighbor, "You're in the wrong house, mate. 4 doors down you live. 4 doors down." But this man's drunk. He said, "Let me in. Alan's holding the door now." Now the man from 4 doors down, he's a big geezer. He's a big man. Strong man. He pushes his way through the door. Him and Alan get into a struggle. This man's trying to go upstairs to where Alan's wife and children are. So Alan's fighting with him in the foyer of his house. Downstairs at the bottom of the stairs. In the passageway, they're fighting. This man from 4 doors away pulls out a knife. Now Alan, he can look after himself, and he wasn't a coward. What he done, he took the knife off the man and he stabbed him 3 times. After stabbing him 3 times, he calls the police and calls the ambulance. Ambulance and police come to take the man away, who Alan stabbed 3 times. This man died on the scene. The ambulance take him away. The police come and arrest Alan. They arrest him. They arrest Alan, and Alan has to go to court. Alan gets 12 years. 12 years for involuntary murder. 12 years for defending his family, his wife, and his children. Well, you know what the sharia says about this? If a man is looking through the keyhole of your front door and you poke his eye out, there's no harm for you. If a man tries to break into your house and you kill him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, defending your wife and your children, there's no harm for you. There's no punishment for you. You know what they said about Alan? They said he used excessive force. Why did he stab him 3 times? He should have only stabbed him once. What the hell are you talking about? A man breaks into his house, tries to go to where his wife and children are sleeping, and you want to stab him once. This is called diminished responsibility in the Sharia. This is called when you lose your mind, defending your honor, your wife, and your children. This is your honor, your wealth, your lineage, your honor. This is what the Sharia was sent for, to protect. Of the 5, 3 he was protecting Alan, and he got 12 years for this. 12 years. Now I'll tell you another story, and bear with me. This is a story about a man named Martin, and I don't know his surname. I wrote it down. I don't know where I wrote it because I've just gone well off my notes. No, not mine, Leo. Martin, to cut a long story short, almost the exact same thing happened to Martin. He had 2 children. Same again, hard-working, so on and so forth. Martin, someone breaks into his house, and this time there was 3 men. 3 men. They get Martin, who's downstairs, and they, subhanAllah, manage to reprimand him. He's struggling to defend his family, but they reprimand him. They manage to, subhanAllah, subdue him. They go upstairs and they rape his wife in front of him. They rape his wife in front of him, and one of the shayateen from the 3, he raped his daughter as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curse these people. Rapes his wife, rapes his daughter, burgles his house and leaves. These 3 men, they get arrested because of DNA evidence. MashaAllah. They get arrested. They go to jail. They go to court. Between 3 of them, they got a maximum. Between all 3 of them, they got a maximum of 6 years. 2 years each. 2 years each. 2 years each. You know, one of them, he done 6 months. The other 2 were out before the end of the year. SubhanAllah, what type of judicial system is this? Instead of discouraging people to do crime, it's the encouragement. Instead of encouraging people to defend your honor, your property, your wealth, your lineage, this is discouragement. Well, wallahi al-azim, Alan is a better man. The man who went to jail for 12 years defending his honor, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make him Muslim and guide him into Jannah. Because he is a better man. Not that Martin didn't try. Martin tried, but in his statement, Martin says that he was very scared, and he was scared of these men, and he didn't really fight as much as he should have, and so on and so forth. Alan gave it his all, and for his all, he done 12 years. Martin, who got subdued, his wife raped in front of him, all 3 criminals were out before the end of the year. Subhanallah. Out before the end of the year. What type of judicial system is this? Subhanallah, the judicial system in this country just doesn't work. 80% of all criminals, 80% of all criminals reoffend. They go in as burglars and they come out as fraudsters. They go in as rapists, they come out as murderers. This is a fact. And you know how I know it's a fact? I've seen it with my own eyes, people that I know. In and out of jail. In and out of jail. Like yo-yos. And every time they come out, you know what? They have a bigger plan. No, you don't know. Jibs, you don't know. I've got it this time. I met this geezer in jail. He gave me some next man's contact. This geezer's a top dog. He's going to sort me out. I said, brother, come to La ilaha illallah. It will sort out all of your problems. Now, inshallah, let's come to the last and final. And sorry for taking up too much of your time. How much time have we got left, Akhi? Just carry on. Okay, mashallah. The last and final is sharia, international law in Islam, or ahkam al-jihad. Now, subhanallah, I know that this is a topic that many speakers, they shy away from. But alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, I'm sure that there's some member or some sort of secret services recording what I'm saying. But what they seem to forget is that we all have somebody or something recording everything we do and everything we say. Is this not so? And at the end of the day, they can record all they want and their tape will run out. But the recorders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their tapes, their ink, their pen never runs out. And on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, they can bring, in this type they can bring whatever they want. On the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, I will stand before Allah and say I spoke the truth. Bi-iznillah. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us all. Now, subhanallah, when it comes to foreign policy or international law covers foreign policy, national security, trade, treaty, international trade, treaty, citizenship, and war in general. It covers all of these things. Now, subhanallah, before I go into this topic, you know, when I drive around this country, Great Britain, it is, without a shadow of a doubt, a beautiful country, subhanallah. The ard of Allah is jamila. The world of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beautiful. It is a very beautiful country, and without a shadow of a doubt, I believe, it is one of the best places to live in the world. The best roads, the best, everyone's laughing, traffic, you can't help traffic. It's the best roads, you need to travel a bit, see some roads around the world. It's got the best roads, or one of the best roads. It's got the best road, one of the best railway systems. It's got, we have some disagreement, dissension in the race. It's got one of the strongest infrastructures. It's got, subhanallah, one of the best NHS systems, the best, subhanallah, health system. It's got all of this infrastructure for its citizens. But I get to thinking, how do they manage to afford all this? Where does it all come from? Colleges, universities, free education. You know, because like I said before, this country doesn't have any outlet. It doesn't have any export. They don't export nothing. Nothing goes out of this country other than bombs. But anyway, that's a different topic. Nothing goes out. There's no export. They don't export food. They've got no gold. They've got no oil. They've got no diamonds. They've got mines for coal that are redundant. And they've got mines for slate that are redundant. They haven't got anything. So where does it all come from? Subhanallah. Have you ever thought about this? Where does it all come from? Shall I tell you where it comes from, brothers and sisters? It comes from their foreign policy. And their foreign policy is what builds the roads, what builds the, subhanallah, colleges, what builds the schools, what builds the NHS system. And if you look back years, do you know what the foreign policy is, and do you know what it builds? I'll tell you, subhanAllah. This country, and the West in general, but this country in particular, has solely been built upon that which is raped, plundered, and taken from other lands. The roads, subhanAllah, the trains, they've been, subhanAllah, the money that they took from the African slaves in Africa, from the resources that they raped from the African slaves in Africa. From then, they went to India. The, subhanAllah, the NHS system, the schools, is still running from that, what they take then and what they take now. Then they took, subhanAllah, they massacred thousands of people under their foreign policy. Their infrastructure is built upon what they took from the Indians, the resources that they raped from the land, and they brought it to the mother of the colony, Great Britain, England. What they brought here, all of their system is built upon the blood, guts, life, the wounds that they raped, the lands that they took, the rubies and diamonds on the head of the Queen's crown is from India. What do they have that is their own? Wallahi al-Azim, how can these people ever try to say that the foreign policy of the Sharia is an evil foreign policy? Wallahi al-Azim, there is no more evil foreign policy than the foreign policy of the West. After raping, plundering, killing, murdering hundreds of years ago, they're doing the same now. They're doing the exact same now. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Do you want to talk about genocide? Genocide was made by these people. You want to talk about Holocaust? Holocaust is nothing compared to what's going on in the Muslim and the non-Muslim world now. SubhanAllah, they are nothing compared. They can never ever say anything to any Muslim. Ever. A Muslim blows himself up in Tel Aviv, he's a terrorist. Why is the 5-ton bomb that drops in Afghanistan? What is this? What are the cluster bombs that children play with? What is this? They have nothing compared. They can never, ever, ever say anything to the Muslims in relation to this matter. They have the most bloodiest foreign policy ever. The most bloodiest. Their whole infrastructure is based upon this. And like I said before, after raping, pillaging, plundering these countries, what do they call them? The Third World. Who made it the Third World? Was Iraq ever the Third World? No. Was Africa ever the Third World? No. It was never the Third World. Do you know when it became the Third World? When the foreign policy of the West reached there. That's when it became the Third World. Prior to that, it was not the Third World. Iraq was the cradle of society. Africa used to feed the world. Now they're in poverty and strife. And you might say, I'm mentioning things that took place hundreds of years ago. The infrastructure now is built upon what? Taxes and what they raise from other countries. Oil. Oil. Iraq is about oil. Afghanistan is about gas. Their foreign policy is all linked to making a big bank account. And then what do? They give out sweets with one hand and give out bombs with the other. They write laws, United Nations laws, with one hand and break them with the other. That's why the Sharia is far higher than all of this. As Muslims, we cannot break the Sharia because we are worried about being sinful and going to Jahannam. These people, this dunya is their life. How can they ever say anything to us? But what is the foreign policy of Islam and the Sharia? Yes, we have fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we are ordered to fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly tells in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت. That the believers, they fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that the disbelievers, they fight for the sake of Taghut, raping, pillaging, plundering. Look at Israel. Israel, the land of the Jews. And I don't mean that in a derogative manner. Literally, it's the land of the Jews because they've taken it from us. Who put them there? Who gave Israel Israel? Who named Israel Israel? Who named it Israel? Britain and France. Who carved the land? Who sent Lawrence of Arabia to Saudi? Britain. How can they talk about a more bloody foreign policy and they support these same people, the Jews who cry out all the time? What do they say? The Holocaust, the Holocaust, the Holocaust, the Holocaust. All right, the Holocaust. I got no problem with the Holocaust. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give anybody who is oppressed their rights. But the fact of the matter is, what did they just say recently? We will show Gaza the Holocaust. A'udhu billah. These people, they can never say anything to the Muslims. September the 11th, 7/7, anything that's gone on, Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, is nothing compared to what they do. Nothing. I'm not saying it's a justification, but I'm saying it's nothing. Now, as for the foreign policy of the Sharia, the foreign policy of the Sharia is very simple. The foreign policy of Sharia is that we strive to make the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most high. Izzarud-Din. That the deen of Allah is the most high. This doesn't mean you have to become Muslim. This is a nonsense. Media rubbish. If this was true, has anybody traveled to Syria? Okay, in Syria, brother, have you seen churches in Syria? 30% of Syria is non-Muslim. Churches that are hundreds of years old in Syria. Why did they blow up the churches when they entered Syria? Syria used to belong to Rome. The Muslims took Syria. Is this not true? Is there churches there? Are there Christians there? Yes, yes, yes. Have you been to Egypt? Churches in Egypt, over hundreds of years old. Is everyone in Egypt Muslim? No. The Muslims were there, they conquered the land. One of the great Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala, the great Sahaba, they conquered their lands. Khalid ibn Walid, what do you call it, Ubaydullah bin Jarrah. These people, they conquered these lands. Did they ever rape and plunge and take the resources back to Medina? No. They never did that. The Muslims, very rarely, maybe, the truth is maybe, we'll find one or two instances where the Muslims, they did maybe do some things that were out of the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is the nature of man. But as a nizam, we don't judge the nizam by the individuals. We judge it by what it is and what it says. The judicial, foreign policy, economic system of the West is in itself a foundation to make itself stronger. The judicial, foreign policy and economic system of Islam is to bring peace and prosperity to everybody. Do you know the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said? He said one very famous hadith. He said, Kullu an-nas, all of mankind. He didn't say just the Muslims. He said all of mankind have a right over three things. He said water, food, and fire. Some sort of fossil fire, something to burn, to heat themselves. Water, food, and he didn't say just the Muslims. He didn't say just the Muslims. The foreign policy of Islam is to make everything I said in relation to all of the other systems the dominant system amongst the whole of mankind. Amongst the whole of mankind. And that is the foreign policy of Islam. We don't go in and wage war against people, no. The first thing the foreign policy dictates to us is that we do da'wah. We ask people to become Muslim. This is a part of foreign policy. We ask people to become Muslim. So every single individual in this room, Muslim, is probably engaged in the foreign policy of the Sharia anyway, by doing da'wah to his neighbor, by doing da'wah to their colleagues in universities, school, colleges. Everybody. If they reject, no problem. If the city or the country rejects, no problem. La ikrah fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. You don't have to become Muslim. But we say, and this is the crux of the matter, we say, the Muslims, that you see this book is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The laws that come from this book, the foundation of the tree is this book. This is the truth. The foundations of the sharia, the laws, regulations come from this book. And this book is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am not saying to you that I want to dictate over you. This is not the four policy of the sharia, that we want to dictate. No. We are not saying, the sharia does not say that we want to dictate, or that we want to overrule, or that our law is better than yours. No. What we say is my law has no relevance. Your law has no relevance. The only relevance, whether it's Muslim or non-Muslim, is the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My creator and your creator. My Lord and your Lord. Rabbuna, our Lord. Whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. This is what we say. So if you don't want to embrace Islam, don't embrace Islam. But accept Nizam al-Sayafa al-Islam. Accept this political system of Islam, which is all the Sharia. Accept this. You don't want to accept this? No problem. Now what we say is that we give you opportunity for anybody in that land who doesn't want to fight, join the Islamic State. So we come to citizenship. Citizenship. You know citizenship in Islam, you know what it is? Nothing. There's no such thing. You just move from one place to another, you're a citizen. That's it. If you move from one place to another, and you live under the Khilafah, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, you have a right to food, clothing, shelter. Social system. You have a right to this. And you know what? Subhanallah. People always say Muslims hate Jews. This is nonsense. We don't hate Jews. We don't hate Christians. We don't hate Hindu Sikhs. What it is that we don't like people who don't like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simple. We don't like people who don't like the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you manifest that you don't like them by subhanallah saying derogative things about the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you just put them to death. But this thing about we don't like Hindus, Sikhs, Christians is rubbish. Umar radiallahu ta'ala, the second Khalif of Islam, when he was the Amir al-Mu'mineen, he come out of his house at 6 in the morning. And he was walking around, seeing who can he help. He saw an old blind man. Blind man. He said to this blind man, he said, where's your children? He says, Ana bidun walad, I have no children. He said, oh. He said, where's your tribe? He said, Ana bidun, I don't have a tribe. He said, so you're on your own? He said, yes, I'm on my own. He said, Ya Khalif, Amir al-Mu'mineen, give me some money. I need some money, give me some money. Now the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, no, I won't give you money. What I will do is this. He said, I will appoint somebody to look after you in the morning, and I will appoint somebody to look after you in the evening, and I will pay his wages. The state will pay his wages. Not a guide dog. Not a guide dog when you're walking down the road. No. Appoint somebody to look after you in the morning and somebody in the evening, and they'll be paid by the state. Do you know this man? He wasn't Muslim. He wasn't Christian. He was a Jew. A Jew. Subhanallah. See all these false propaganda. Like I said, it's all normal. But what the Sharia is the representation of the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the earth. And it is nothing new to what all the other messengers brought. They brought and implemented Sharia upon their people. I'll end it here, inshallah, and open the floor to any questions, answers, or corrections, or any comments. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, wa astaghfirullah wa atubu alayk. La ilaha illallah anta subhanak, inni kuntum min al-zalimin.